You want to know which players might bust for week 1 of the fantasy football season? Get ready, we're about to tell you. Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, and he's Chris. We're here to help you set those winning lineups for week 1 of the 2022 season, and that includes some players that we think just might let you down in that first important week. Now remember that we're going to be doing a live stream on Saturday, September 10th, answering as many of your start-sit lineup questions as possible. We want to help you get that first victory of the season, so join us on Saturday. All right, Chris, let's hear about your first bust pick for week 1.
You know, a lot of people have thought they've got a steal on Ezekiel Elliott, in the 3rd, 4th, maybe even the 5th round of some drafts. But I'm here to tell you, you didn't, and you're definitely not going to get a steal in week 1 when he has to go against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This run defense shuts down everybody. Even look at Christian McCaffrey over the last couple years. His worst games, always against the Buccaneers. They have what it takes to shut down any run game, including a dusty Ezekiel Elliott. And if you watched our start-sit video, our running back start-sit video, which you should go do after this video if you haven't, we talked about it. I have Zeke as a must-sit, and now you know why. I think he's going to actually bust this week and kill your chances of winning. But I like Tony Pollard this week because they're not going to be able to run the ball on this Buccaneers defense. And I think Tony Pollard will be a guy who will be involved in the receiving game more than Zeke. So people think, I'm getting this high floor, high volume, safe running back in the 3rd, 4th, or whatever round it was that you drafted him. And sure, he may be that guy some weeks, but this week is not it. I'm telling you, do not start Ezekiel Elliott this week unless you want to start your season 0-1.
And I mean, I'm not all aboard the Zeke is dust theme, but I do admit it is a risky start this week for sure. So we'll see. He might just need a touchdown to salvage his week. Which brings me to Antonio Gibson. So look, again, a lot of people now going crazy, drafting him way higher than they should have anyways because of the Brian Robinson incident. So we know Robinson out for an undetermined length of time. Well, Antonio Gibson's technically the starter, right? He's also still the kick returner. He's also still in the doghouse. Look, all of a sudden, getting more touches doesn't necessarily mean he'll be better. It's not like Gibson was terrible last year, I'll admit, but he hasn't shown signs of progress this offseason. He's shown signs that he's skating on some thin ice. And we know he's had issues putting the ball on the ground. All it takes is one fumble, and he will not see the field, I guarantee. They will go with J.D. McKissic the rest of the game. So here's the thing. I get that there is touchdown upside just because they're playing Jacksonville. I get that he's going to technically be the lead back. So it's not so much that I think he's an absolute must-sit because there is some potential here for fantasy points based on the fact that he's getting touches and volume and he's going to have a good matchup. But I also think he has the potential to get you 0, maybe even negative points if he fumbles early in the game. Honestly, Gibson is a guy that if you did draft him, I'd be seeking offers right now and trying to trade, get whatever you can for him. I just don't think the season is going to go well. So there's just so much bust potential. And that even starts in week 1 against Jacksonville. All right, Chris, give me another bust you think is coming.
Well, in our Booms video, I talked about Russell Wilson Revenge Week. Unfortunately, not going to be the case for DK Metcalf going up against this incredibly stacked Denver defense and catching passes, or should I say not catching passes, from Geno Smith. This is going to be a terrible start to the season for DK Metcalf. It's probably going to be a terrible season for DK Metcalf because, again, starting off the year with Geno Smith, maybe they go to Drew Lock at some point, but either way, not going to help DK Metcalf and certainly not going to help him this week with this Denver defense who's going to be motivated because they know their quarterback is going back to Seattle and they want him to get the win, right? The defense is going to be extra motivated this week to help Russell Wilson get this win. They are going to demolish this Seattle offense, which they could do anyways, whether they're motivated or not, because this Seattle offense is really bad. And then B, DK Metcalf in a tough matchup catching passes from Geno Smith. Just no way I can possibly start DK Metcalf this week. I know there's still people out there who see the name DK Metcalf and all they can see in their head is upside and fantasy points and all this stuff. But he barely did it last year. Why is he going to do it now with Geno Smith against his defense? He's not. Don't start him this week. He's not worth it.
Yeah, look, if he was a disappointment last year with Russ Wilson for most of the season, what can you realistically expect from him this year? Yeah, this matchup, honestly, he could be on your bench. So I'm on Ross St. Brown, the Sun God. He was a pleasant surprise last year. People really didn't expect a lot from a fourth-round pick, especially on the Lions. But when there's nobody else to throw to, he was the guy who was just a target magnet. Helped you down the stretch. Look, he's a good receiver. Not taking anything away from him particularly, but I'm going to take away from his fantasy value because, look, we know that he did all of that with nobody else to compete realistically for targets. And we're talking about guys like Khalif Raymond, all right, guys who are very much roster bubble types that wouldn't have been on the starting lineup in any other team. TJ Hawkinson is, for now, healthy, all right? They got DJ Chark, who is also for now healthy and a decent receiver. DeAndre Swift is there. There's going to be less need to just funnel passes towards St. Brown. And I have a feeling that this matchup is going to get out of hand. So I just don't see a lot of scoring upside, honestly, for Detroit and for St. Brown. I think he's fine in a deep PPR league. He might get you a few points. But realistically, I think the ceiling is very low here. So I don't hate him long-term, season-long, but in week one, I really think I have a lot of other receivers I would rather roll out there than the Sun God. All right, and one more bust. Who's going to let us down in week one?
Yeah, don't hate me for this one, but I can't start Cam Akers this week. I mean, it was great, a great story that he made it back for that playoff, that Super Bowl run last year. And it was really nice that Sean McVay kept giving him the ball so he could run for 2 yards per carry. And it was great that they still won a Super Bowl despite that, and he got a Super Bowl ring, and that's all great, right? I feel very good for the guy. But this is fantasy football. We need guys that can help us in fantasy football. And there's a lot to worry about here. Number one, we still have not seen Cam Akers look anything like the Cam Akers before his Achilles tear. He was terrible during that Super Bowl run. And we just saw Marlon Mack, who looked like he was starting to come back from that Achilles, just got released by the Texans, who don't even have any depth outside of Dameon Pierce in that running back room. Like, this is not a good vote of confidence for a guy coming off Achilles. Then what have we heard Sean McVay saying leading up to week one? Not sure about his status. He's got 2 starters with Akers and Darrell Henderson. The writing is on the wall. Cam Akers is probably not anywhere close to the Cam Akers we saw before his Achilles injury, and Sean McVay knows it. He knows deep down he can't give this guy the ball 20 plus times to get 2-3 yards every time he touches it. And this is going to be a shootout. It's Buffalo, it's the Rams. The Rams are probably just going to throw the ball a ton, which is what they want to do anyways, and they're probably going to have to in this game because you're not going to beat the Bills by running the ball 30 times and keeping it low scoring. So you add all that up, I just don't see any way Cam Akers helps your team at all in week one. I don't care where you drafted him, he has to be on your bench this week.
Look, I admitted it on our start sit. We talk about each game and all the running backs, and I've got to be out on Akers too. I mean, he's clearly not healthy, and even if he is, this is just a bad week. So, yeah, you just gotta bench him. And then a guy that normally you just don't even think about, you put Aaron Rodgers in your lineup as your quarterback because, look, MVP and all the numbers. But what Aaron Rodgers also does is let down in games where you expect him to go off, especially in week one. Remember, relax, that whole thing? Why did that come about? Because he really sucked in week one last year. Okay, he's a guy who kind of goes by his own, well, he does a lot of things that are, to his own drum. But he's a guy that, doesn't necessarily have that motivation, I don't think, anymore. We saw it in the playoffs last year, right? We've seen all sorts of things this offseason. This is a guy that 2 of the last 3 years has come out flat in week one. And now he's going out there without his main guy, one of the best receivers in the league, Devontae Adams. I mean, look, Alan Lazard, Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to put up the kind of numbers that he has put up, even though it's the Vikings, even though typically puts up numbers against the Vikings. I think this is a game where they're really going to get back to just running the ball, controlling it on the ground. It's going to be Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. I don't think he's going to sit back and throw it 40 plus times. I think that now finally we're going to see Aaron Rodgers kind of take a step back and be that game manager. Packers have always been one of the teams that plays at the slowest pace. This is not necessarily going to be a passing back and forth, aerial fest. Well, maybe it will be for the Vikings, but it won't be for the Packers, I don't think. So Aaron Rodgers, look, I don't have him as a top 12 quarterback this week. It's going to take time for him to actually develop some chemistry with these young receivers. So I don't trust him enough to put him in my fantasy lineups if I have him this week. All right, we just told you all about those players who will bust, but what about those players who might smash and help you win? Check out this video right here, and we'll tell you who we think will go off in week 1.